I am a sales coach and advisor, and I've been doing B2B sales for over 10 years now. I have worked for a number of different startups, and the one thing that has been consistent with them all is steady, sustainable sales growth. The first startup I joined, I was one of their first salespeople. When I joined, there was 20 of us. 4 years later, there were over 900. So it was incredible to be part of a unicorn and be able to build the retail side of sales for the entire company. Then I joined of all places, a neon light company where I was only there for 3 months to redo their inbound sales process. The last year, they'd made $1 million. With my inbound process, we made $1 million in 3 months. So putting in place these changes are marked differences. And hopefully just a few things that I share today will maybe make a real difference for all of you. The aim is I'm going to talk for about 15, maybe 20 minutes. I'm a bit of a yapper. Most salespeople are. But that will just be a presentation that covers what I think are the fundamentals of sales that every single founder should have in their back pocket. And then after that, I would just love for you to give me the sales problems that you're facing. What is something that you feel like you just can't overcome? Chances are there is more than one other person in the room that is having the same problem as you. And so I love to be challenged. I love something a little bit different. So do have a think. If there's anything you're struggling with, pop it in the chat and we can talk about it afterwards. All right. So I will say one big thing about me and one big thing about sales is people don't love sales. It can make you really, really uncomfortable. And so if there's one thing I like to do is make people have a little bit of a laugh and take away what I think is maybe the frightening discomfort in sales. So you're going to see some memes, you're going to see some GIFs. And, you know, I know you're all on mute, but I'm going to pretend you're all laughing at my jokes. Otherwise, my feelings will get hurt. So first of all, what are the golden rules of sales? When I say this, I mean, if you apply this to everything that you're doing, and it doesn't just have to be sales, but if you apply this through every stage of the sales process, you will get better results without fail. The first thing is you've got to be positive. And there's a few reasons for that. One, sales can be an absolute slog. And it's often the thing that founders dislike the most of their role, and they're not necessarily prepared to be doing it. So you've got to start thinking positively about it. You've got to put yourself in a mindset where you're excited about sales because it's what's going to bring in money and bring in revenue. So it's worth putting yourself in a good mindset when it comes to it. But also, if you're having a bad day and you get onto a sales meeting, even like a networking session, and you're in a rubbish mood, you're a bit grumpy and you're a bit, people aren't going to want to work with you. And so no matter what has happened in my day, no matter how bad of a night's sleep I've got, I promise you, if you're in a meeting with me, I'm going to be engaged, I'm going to be smiling, I'm going to be nodding along like a fool. And it just lets people know I'm listening to you, I'm interested in what you're saying. And if you wanted to work with me, that's exactly what you're getting every single day. It's consistent. And I think it's a bit infectious, you know? I think a few of you by the end of this, I can see some of you have little smiles on your faces. So yeah, I think it's an infectious thing, and it's true. Humans buy from humans. If you're a nice human, people want to buy from you. The second thing is being persistent. And I think sometimes people underestimate how persistent you need to be. If you leave a meeting and you send a quick follow-up email saying, hey, this is what we chatted about, and then you never send another follow-up, you are the reason why your deals aren't converting. This is probably one of the most arrogant opinions I have, and I'm a salesperson, so that's really saying something. But I genuinely believe if I have a meeting with someone and I don't want to work with them, I just don't follow up. Because if you're not following up with people, you're really unlikely to get a deal. Now, I'm going to pose a question to you. I know maybe you can't answer me, but have a little think in your mind, put a number in your brain. How many times do you think you need to have a touch point with someone before they decide to use your company? Have a little think. How many times do you think you might need to message someone or speak to them or come up on their LinkedIn before they want to work with you?
11.
That's very, very close. It is between 7 and 14. So you got me there because a lot of people say 4 or 5. So thanks for making my number less impressive, Andrea. But yeah, it's between 7 and 14. My outreach process on LinkedIn, which gets me between 3 and 5 meetings a week in my diary, and it's all automated, has 12 touch points in it. And you might think that's annoying. And guess what? Some people tell me I am annoying. But if you're not getting 3 or 5 meetings a week in your diary, maybe you need to be a little bit more annoying. And it's before you get the meeting and it's after you get the meeting. If you're ready to put the work in to make your business work, you've got to put that effort into your sales process, even if it makes you uncomfortable. And that leads to the third thing, being brave. Sales is almost always pushing you out of your comfort zone. No one loves making a cold call. No one. Anyone who says they do is either a liar or a psychopath. But that doesn't mean we don't do it. So if there's one thing that comes out of this session, if there's one piece of advice that you take, have a think, is there something you're currently avoiding? Is there a really big deal that you're unsure if they want to work with you, and so you're kind of giving them a bit of space? Is there someone who you've been seeing on LinkedIn who you think is really smashing it in your industry and you actually really want to go talk to them, but you're holding yourself back from doing it? Just go for it. And let me know how it goes, because I love to celebrate with other people, because that's all about sales, is celebrating the big wins and the little wins. But just go for it. Go do the thing that makes you uncomfortable. I promise you the worst thing that can happen is you might get rejected. But you know what? We've all been there. We've all been rejected. I won't go into my dating back in the day, but we can all do it. You've got to get thick skin if you're going to be in sales. And the nice thing is, yeah, okay, someone might say no, someone might not be interested in talking. But what if they are interested? What if they say yes? And that's why it's worth taking the risk. And that's it. That's actually sales. Gosh, that was a lot quicker than I expected. No, unfortunately, sales is so much more than people think. If you've ever, well, I'm sure many of you have worked in a corporate office before. Nothing's more frustrating than seeing the salespeople swanning in. And everyone just thinks, oh, they just go have a pitch and then they just go for beers at 3 in the afternoon. But actually, there is a reason why salespeople are often the first people in the office and the last ones to leave. It's because majority of our work is admin. And I think that that's sometimes what really puts people off when they first realize they have to do sales for their business. Because you've got to be doing prospecting. You've got to be doing outreach. And that's not just networking. That is reaching out to people on LinkedIn, sending messages, going to events and introducing yourself to people. Some businesses, it's walking into shop fronts or walking into offices and introducing yourself, writing a handwritten letter. All of these things are how you start your sales cycle. And that is probably the vast majority of a salesperson's work. Just to give you a very scary figure, on average, if you reach out to 100 people in a week, the likelihood is you may book around 5 meetings. So if you want to get lots of deals, and let's say you want to get 1 deal a week, you'll probably need to be reaching out to about 100 people a week. So really think with your networking, because I assume all of us do it, because obviously we're all here, but within your networking, within your outreach, are you getting to that level? And if not, what more can you do? The next stage is qualifying. This is a short one. Don't waste your time. Make sure you're not wasting theirs. They're the right person to speak to, and you're the right fit for them. Then you get to do a pitch, which is the fun part. It's my favorite part. We'll do a little section on it. And then you are right back into admin, which is just chasing people and chasing people and chasing people. I always say, if you've met with me and said that you have any section of your soul that wants to work together, I will not leave you alone until you give me an answer. I once realized I had sent someone about 6 or 7 emails without them responding to me. And I said to myself, right, I think I'm done. I think I have to stop. They are very, very clearly ignoring me. And then I thought, maybe my emails just aren't being seen. Maybe they've been on holiday for the last 3 weeks. I'm going to just message them on LinkedIn. It's my Hail Mary. I'm going to go for it one more time. I feel uncomfortable doing it, so it's probably the right thing to do. responded straight away saying, I'm so sorry that we haven't answered you. The advice you gave us in your first 30 minutes with us was so helpful that we've actually spent the last 3 weeks implementing an entire CRM system. And so now it's set up. We want to bring you in to have a full audit of our whole sales processes to see what more we can do. So right now, again, have a think. Is there someone that you followed up with loads of times and you're like, oh, I couldn't possibly do it again? Do it again. Pick a different space. Don't send another email if that's what you're doing. Give them a call. Always the best way to do it. And if that makes you uncomfortable, then you definitely need to do it. So one of the really big things with a salesperson is our mindsets. And this is the mindset that every single founder needs to have. In fact, I would be surprised if anyone on this call doesn't already have a growth or a money mindset, because you wouldn't be building a business if you didn't. These are some examples of how you can apply that to your sales process. And just to explain that, GIF, that is just my brain at all times. That's why salespeople work hard. What's my commission? What more money can I make? I always like to say sort of about this is people can have really strong opinions about money, about making money, how they feel about it. Take a little time today, if you can, to think, is that my opinion or is it maybe my parents'? Because a lot of our opinions about money comes from our parents, and they're a different generation and they are not us. So really have a think about it, because with your business, chances are there are new revenue streams that you can explore that could give you a massive increase. In fact, sometimes I'll speak to someone and they can double the amount of money that they're making. If you're a B2B business, how can you be B2C and vice versa? When you have a client, what more can you get out of it? Whenever I finish a project with a client, I always ask them afterwards, what can we do next? What is your next big project and can I fit into it? And then I'm always in contact. People who've worked with me a year ago, I still message them. I still get in contact, because about once a month or so, I'll call people I haven't spoken to for a few months. This is a really good thing. If you're not doing this, please do this. I call up my old clients and I say, is there anything that we could be doing together? Because we haven't worked together for a little while. Yes or no, doesn't matter what their answer is. My next question is, by the way, is there anyone you could introduce me to? And that is how not only you take control of word of mouth, but you increase it as well. And then also, it's sometimes worth just looking at your pricing and your packages and seeing, am I doing it the right way? Should I have a higher price band? Should I be charging more per hour? Should I actually be on a retainer rather than hourly? Have a think about your pricing, and also, always free to come and chat to me if you think that maybe you could be earning more than what you currently are. So now that you've got the right mindset, the important thing is, are you reaching out to people and are you doing it in the right way? So a lot of the time people will come to me and they'll go, I've done email outreach campaigns, I've done LinkedIn campaigns, it's never worked. It doesn't work for me. And I will look at their messages and I'll say, if someone sent that to you, would you respond? And the answer is almost always no when they go back and read it. So again, have a look at some of the outreach that you've done. If it's successful, ignore me. But if it isn't successful, have a look and think, have I done these 3 things? First, is it personalized? Taking the time to go and look at someone's LinkedIn to be like, hey, well done on your recent promotion at your job. You must have loads of things on your plate right now. I wonder if X is something that you're considering. It's my specialty, so I'd love to help. Immediately, you're not a robot, and so they're more likely to respond to you. Yes, it takes more time. Yes, it feels more personal when people don't respond to you or when they reject you, but you will get more responses. The next is making sure you speak to the relative person. Always check on LinkedIn to see if they are still at the role you're about to reach out to. I had a cold caller recently try and sell me something from about, I think, a job I was in 2 years ago, which is quite incredible. Yes, I did spot that typo. It's a big old shame, but thank you for letting me know. And then the third thing is being persistent. So, no, I appreciate it, Robin. The next thing is being persistent. It's back. And genuinely, again, if you're reaching out to people and you are sending one message and not continuing to message them after that, you have almost no chance of them getting back to you. You have got to be consistent. Sure, sometimes people respond to my outreach saying, "You are the most annoying human being I have ever met in my life. Please leave me alone." But the vast majority will say, "Thank you so much for your persistence. This is the kind of sales that I need in my business to take it to the next level. Let's chat." And so it's totally worth it. I don't care. People can reject me because they would have never wanted to work with me in the first place. But the people who are interested, they can see what I'm about and they know that I will not give up and I'm a hard worker. And that is what I think comes across when you are persistent. So let's say you get the meeting. This is something that I think is a really interesting one. A lot of the time, I'll do a session with a founder and we'll do a mock pitch together. And it's just, I'm just going to say it, it's a hot mess. Either they're only talking about themselves, or we have absolutely no sort of like clarity on what their business is. And so let's say you've got a big meeting coming up, maybe you're a little bit nervous. This is a really great way to make sure that you're hitting all the points in a meeting and you are very, very confident that you have done the absolute best that you can. And therefore, if you are the right fit, you're the right fit. And it's not because you've missed something or messed something up. You don't have to kick yourself for not getting a deal. You know you've done your best work. So this is something I've created myself. A very long time ago, I was taught something called DIPPADA. It's too many letters. Here's fleet, it's one less. So first of all, you've got frame. So laying out the meeting. If you get into a pitch with someone, obviously first, please do have a nice chat and get to know them a little bit. There's nothing worse than getting into a meeting and someone immediately being like, "Right, let's talk about business straight away." Get to know me, butter me up, flirt a little. Don't flirt, that's inappropriate, but just make sure you're getting to know them a little bit. So how I frame is the power of three. Everyone likes three things. So look, first, I'd like to talk about you, then let's talk about me, and then we can talk about working together. Obviously, adjust that for yourselves. The full version, I always say at the beginning of a meeting, and I'm giving myself away if any of you are ending up chatting to me after this, but I'll say, look, first of all, I would love to hear about your business and any sales challenges that you're facing. Then let me tell you a little bit about myself so that you can trust the advice that I'm giving you. And then we can see if we're a good fit and if it makes sense to work together. Now, immediately that invites them to speak about themselves and their challenges. And then they know that the end of the meeting is talking about working together. There's no uncertainty. We know we're going to be talking about a potential partnership. Then shut up and just listen to them. Listen to what they're saying, learn about their challenges so that you can then take all of that and use it when you're explaining your business. Because if you're explaining your business in a completely generic way and you're just saying, this is what we do, people don't care. Sounds so savage, but people don't care what you do. They care what you can do for them. So when I explain what I do, it is always in relation to the challenges that the people I'm speaking to have. So if I'm saying, oh, yes, well, when I was at Stewart, I learned how to do, Salesforce and I became a CRM expert. I'll go, oh, you mentioned you've been having some issues tracking your sales with your team. Do you think that a CRM implementation could be helpful? And they go, yes, actually, that would be. I'm like, oh, okay, great. Well, yeah, as I mentioned, that's what I do. Anyway, whatever, brief. Oh, that's what you're interested in? Oh, how funny. What a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. I listened to you and I adapted my pitch so that you felt like I was literally made for you. And that gets them to agree with you. And that's when you get micro yeses. Oh, yes, that could be very interesting. Oh, yes, that would solve that problem for me. And once you've got that going, that's when you get the timeline in. So if you're leaving a meeting and you're like, oh, I'm not quite sure if they're interested, or I'm not quite sure how they feel, or if we'll move forward, chances are you are not getting that deal. You've got to put a timeline in. So These are some of the closing questions that you can ask so that you can then know what is going to happen next. So, does this sound like this could be something you're interested in? Does this fit your budget? What are your next steps? You know, potentially they're not the decision maker. Who else needs to be involved in this conversation? What procurement steps are required to make this happen? And find out their answers. Because if they say there's someone else involved, or they say, oh no, I just need to go chat to my team, I'll talk to them on Monday. Fantastic. Shall we put a meeting in for Tuesday then? Schedule the next step. That sounds really scary. And if you feel like confident, you've gone through the pitch process and you're like, yeah, I'm doing really, really well. That's the part where your hands start to shake and you get a bit nervous, because asking for that next meeting, I get a bit nervous. Everyone says yes. You are going to be so surprised. Ask to put the second meeting in the diary. Not only does it mean that you get the decision makers in the room with you, it means you don't have to follow up. You don't have to chase. If you don't have a second meeting, chances are you're about to have the biggest battle to close the deal. So, what happens when you ask closing questions? People give you objections. And again, that is something that people get really, really nervous about. And it frightens them because, especially when it's your own business, it feels a bit like you're being offended. Oh, well, I think you're too expensive, or, well, actually, I don't think you'll solve this problem for me, or, well, I actually don't think that this is a priority, so I'm not sure I should pay for something right now. Here's the thing. If you don't know what people's objections are, if you don't know what holds them back from wanting to work with you, you cannot overcome it. So ask for the objection. Ask for what is making them nervous, and then you can tackle it. There are loads of ways to handle objections. There are too many for me to do in one session. This is my favorite and genuinely basically works for everything. It's a real winner. So it's called Feel, Felt, Found, and it's very, very simple. Someone tells you of their objection and you say, I completely understand why you feel that way. Here's another client that, usually a similar example, they felt exactly the same way, but they found that because of the solution, it was resolved. So a great example for me is, every now and again, someone will say to me, oh, Tasha, I think you might be outside of my budget. And I go, look, I completely understand why you feel that way. Being a solo founder, being an independent consultant, budget is incredibly important. And I know that you may actually be putting your own funds in. So it's never been more vital to make sure you get a return on investment. One of my first clients felt exactly the same way. She'd just had her second child and she'd started a femtech marketing business. She had no idea where her next client would come from or how she'd be able to pay my invoice. However, she found that by investing in just a few hours of a partnership with me, she was able to close her first deal within 3 weeks of launching her business at a value of over £100,000. She spent less than £1,000 with me. And if that sounds like an ROI you'd be happy with, then I would love to talk to you more. And immediately, I mean, who wouldn't say yes to that? I'd say yes to that. And so please, please use Feel, Felt, Found. Have your set of examples in your mind ready to go, and then use them to your benefit. And that's basically the presentation. That's just sort of the introduction to it. I've seen that there have been some messages, so hopefully some people have got some questions or some sales conundrums. But anything that that has sort of popped up from
Tash, that was amazing. Thank you very much. On the topic of cold calling, the best cold caller I ever see in action, I said, how'd you do it? Like, it's making like hundreds and hundreds of calls a day, and literally it seemed like they were loving it. He was absolutely loving it. And he turned around to me and he said, the way I work this, is every person I speak to, it's like taking £25 off them.
Yeah.
And I thought, what a mindset. That is fantastic. And that's a good motivating point. Now, but I'd love to do a series of calls with you, Tash, where we can get you back and look at different parts of the sales process and dig a little bit deeper. But today, I'd love questions. We're very fortunate to have Tash with us. Any questions relating to your own sales process, or could be conversion, anything at all, just raise it with us today, and let's see if we can get some results here.
Exactly. Dan, you've got your hand up. Hit me.
Well, firstly, very, very good presentation. I really enjoyed that. And as a customer experience consultant, I'm kind of always mindset is the aftercare, like how do you hold on to them? How do you retain them rather than going out and getting them? So I always really struggle with that. And when you said about the kind of being annoying, that's how I always feel. Because for me personally, I get probably 15, 20, 30 spammy LinkedIn messages from people every week selling me all sorts of crap that isn't even relevant to my business. And I personally get a bit annoyed at that, and I'm like, if they haven't personalized it, then I'm not going to touch them at all. I'm not even going to speak to them because I find it's quite rude. So it's about getting that, and I struggle with then trying to do my outreach because then I get stuck in that mindset, and I'm like, I don't want to annoy them because I don't want to have that detrimental effect on myself. So if I come across as annoying, then all that's going to do is make them be annoyed with me, make them annoyed with my service, and then put them off. And that's the really big thing that I struggle with is not irritating people, and then, like I said, having a detrimental effect on your service. So any advice on how to kind of overcome that, almost that fear of being annoying, if you know what I mean?
Yes. So just get over it, actually. No. So you know, what's sad is that you can write the perfect outreach message to the perfect client who, you know, that if they had a conversation with you, they would do so well. They would absolutely want to work with you. They will still respond to you and be like, oh, piss off, Dan, you're annoying me. So you might as well just go for it, because if you send it to 10 people, chances are one of them will be interested. And of course, you might find people who get annoyed at you, who say that they're not interested in working with you. And chances are you've just got them on a bad day at a bad moment. But if you let those few responses hold you back, it's going to mean that you miss out on so much more. And sometimes I like to think, it's funny because it's almost exactly what Ollie just said with the cold caller. Sometimes when I'm sending my outreach and I feel a bit nervous that someone might find me annoying, I think, but what if this is my next deal? What if this is my next contract? And then I think of my average contract value and I think, is my discomfort at this 1 second of pressing send more value than my average contract value? And I promise you, it's never, never worth more than that.
That's really good advice. And that's exactly, I have full faith in my business. Like every client I've had, I've given an ROI to, and I know that what I offer works. We all know that customer experience is important. It's a case of, like you said, being persistent and making sure people know, and not falling short on the first hurdle or dropping out too early. And no, really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much, Tash. And you're a genius when it comes to this. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm really obsessed with sales, so it's nice to hear that. Sid, I think that you popped up next.
Oh yeah, great presentation, Tash. So thank you. So we've got a very robust sales process in. 100 reach out. I get 5 demos every week. Everybody loves our service and product. How do you get the cash out of them, right? So what I find is having then, out of the 5, all of them will go, "This is brilliant. I want to do this." I'll probably get 1 or 2 of them eventually sign up and pay the membership. What am I missing from that, final getting them to put the hand in the pocket and cash on the table?
So I think sometimes, and it's hard to know without knowing exactly how your business model works and all of that. And like I always say, I'm always happy to have a 30-minute chat with people to give more specific advice. But you've maybe not quite showing the value that people will get out of it. So, okay, you invest, let's say I'm just making a number, 50 quid a month for a membership. Well, the return on your investment is this. So one thing I'll always say in my meetings with people is your choice right now is to hire a head of sales that's around £150,000 now on average, or you can pay a fraction of that for someone to put everything in place. And then not only are you saving that 150K, you're then not going to have to hire someone at that level either. You can go for someone lower. So try and really think what is, and if you can put a financial value to it, people can understand numbers. If you can do that and you've got case studies to prove it, people will be much happier to spend.
And yeah, and I think, yeah, that's really good advice. And we do that. So, and it is actually, it's £50 gives you £1,500 a month in value. So I wonder if we've got the wrong target market. You know, could it be that actually we've got to go right back to the start of the sales process, and the people we're talking to can't even afford £50 a month?
Yeah, that's a big thing. If the people you're speaking to are saying that they can't afford £15 a month, then 50, yeah, then they are not your target market. And in fact, yeah, that means that you're definitely approaching the wrong people and you need to scale up a bit.
Yeah, and that's good, and good to share with everybody else. It may be that you've got a really good sales process, everything's working well, but if the in, it's like, yeah, crap in is crap out. If you've not got the right data going in and targeting the right people, you know, you're ending up with scratching your head or losing your hair, as I've done. But no, thank you, Tash.
No, absolutely. And also don't ever let it, you know, dissuade you from keeping your pricing. If people are saying yes to your pricing is right. So don't, yeah, sell yourself short just because it's not everyone says yes. Just find the people who'll say yes.
Thank you, Tash.
James?
Hello, long time, first time. Great to see you. So you mentioned a couple of things that there's something in your pitch, great talk. You said that it's great to personalize reach outs and outreach, and you also said you have an automated system which is getting you 5 meetings a week, which makes it sound like you found some sort of magic set of words for you that makes it sound personalized, but is actually automated and being sent to everyone. And I'm curious as to how and presumably that's not going to be the same set of words for everyone here, but how did you, is that true? Did you find something which makes it sound personal, but is actually something that's been automated? And how did you find that?
So yes, the answer is yes. When I started my business, I said to myself, right, be your own client. What advice would you give yourself? And that was find an automation tool to do the outreach for me. And so I did, and I trialed them all. I wrote and rewrote messages for months. And then eventually I put something out there that just worked. And again, I actually do build it for other people as well. So we rewrite their messaging in almost exactly the same style. Everyone gets the same results, which is lovely. But the big thing is the automation is just getting your foot in the door. A lot of the time, the automation will just send one message for me, and I'll see that that's a person that I really want to speak to. And so I'll take them out of the automation and I'll send them a personalized message. And actually, there is someone in this room that worked with, and that is Kevin. He got an automated message from me. He got added automatically. And then I saw who he was and what his company was. And I went, that is someone I can definitely get on with and chat to. So I then sent a personalized message. But for some reason, a lot of people will respond to my LinkedIn automation and say, I know this is automated. I hate when people message me this way. And yet for some reason, I feel really compelled to respond. And it might be the messaging. It also is a numbers game. If you message 1,000 people in a week, you will fall in enough people. And I don't message 1,000 people in a week, but you will fall into the laps of people who are interested. So sometimes, if you've got the time, a little bit less personalization, but a lot more reach will get the same results or better sometimes. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Laura?
Yes, I think so.
Hi, that was a wonderful presentation, Tash. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. I wanted to dig in a little bit onto what kind of testing you would do for your own message, if that's something that you would advocate as we go through that process of refining it, whether you think it's a worthwhile investment for us to actually use a CRM ourselves, or, you know, does Excel and Outlook, is that good enough? Or do you think there's like a real value add? And then my third question, just to kind of put them all in your brain, is are there any kind of feedback points you look for to say, you know, don't burn the contact, like this is a not right now, you know, and maybe the route is diverged of how you would actually respond to some of that stuff. And I'm thinking particularly that through the sales routes that we've done that we know are longer term, because we're dealing with typically sort of public services or government orgs and looking for different routes in, that we're not necessarily looking for a direct sale through that inward process, but rather that referral and rather that kind of internal advocate. So just any of your thoughts about those kinds of feedbacks and how you perhaps keep someone warm for when it's either not the right time for them or not the right time for you.
Right. Okay. So on the message, there was a few things, and if I do miss any of them, let me know which of them I missed. So the first thing is, I would always be updating your messaging, always be making little tweaks, especially if you use any kind of automation, because if you are too consistently sending exactly the same message, you will be flagged as a spam messenger. So always update. Always, if you're emailing especially, you've got to keep tweaking your message, and you've got to check it in a spam checker, because Google is constantly putting in new words or phrases that get you sent straight to spam. It's a whole other conversation. It's enormous. CRMs, I advocate hugely for. But I'm also a hypocrite because I don't use one, because for just me on my own, I don't need it. And I've got a system of reminders to nurture my clients that works for me. But if you are more than one person doing sales or doing outreach in a company, you have to have a CRM. HubSpot is free. HubSpot is great. I recommend HubSpot. It's really easy to use and set up. And it gives you not only the ability to not sort of cross over. There's nothing worse than two salespeople contacting one company. It just looks unprofessional. But it also lets you know, okay, when do I need to nurture this person? Let me put a reminder in for a month's time to maybe check if there's some industry news that's interesting that I could be like, oh, hey, I'm definitely not getting in touch with you because I hope that we'll work together in the future. I just happened to see this thing that relates to you. Or I saw on your LinkedIn you did this thing. I just wanted to touch base and say congratulations. And it's just a great way to make sure that you stay in touch with people that maybe they're not ready to work with you just yet, but they are a great contact to have. And your CRM will help you do that. And then in terms of getting in touch with people who aren't necessarily your like decision makers, but they could be sort of a pathway in, I do exactly the same things. But again, really clear with my messaging on it so that people know that this is why I'm getting in touch with you. And if anything, it's an easier introduction. It's, don't worry, I'm not going to be selling to you. I know that it's not your area, but I'd love to see if this is something that could benefit the wider company. We have 4 minutes left. I'm not sure if anyone has any last questions.
Thank you very much, Tash. So everyone in this room, their sales process is first class. There's nothing we need to cover today and look at and trying to make improvements or any sort of incremental changes. Any questions for Tash?
Hit me, James.
Okay, so what would you advise to somebody who has zero sales system in place? What's the first thing you implement if you've done none of the things you've suggested and are a complete novice and say you're just starting a new business? What's the first thing you do?
Put yourself out there as much as possible. Join every networking group that you can join. Post like mad on LinkedIn. Look at the kind of clients you've worked with in the past, the really, really successful ones. See if there's a pattern there and use that to build your ideal client profile and just start reaching out. I think the biggest thing is just with sales, just do it. Just go for it. There's no right first step. You can make mistakes. You can reach out to people and send the wrong message. But if you're not doing anything, nothing will happen. So just go for it. Just be bold. Like I said, be brave and just put yourself out there. And whatever comes out of it, comes out of it. But I promise you, it will be more than nothing.
Thanks.
Thanks, James. If there are any other things you want to raise with Tash, you can contact me for an intro, or Tash is part of the Start to Stand Up WhatsApp group, also on Circle, so you can reach out to Tash that way. I've got a question for you, Tash. I get approached by so many founders with issues around converting pipeline. All right. Obviously, there's all different founders in different types of industries and whatever else. But if we were to say B2B, business selling B2B, financial services, for instance, and they've got a pipeline which is stubborn, it's not moving, it's not converting, and there's a reluctance from the founders to keep prodding. What tips would you give on how to change the mindset from the founder to try and convert successfully that sales pipeline?
So I would say what's happening there is that they're missing a really key part of their pitch, which is understanding and learning about the needs of the people that they're speaking to. Because there's a really great book called Never Split the Difference. It's by a guy called Chris Voss. It's about negotiating. It's about FBI negotiating. It's really cool. And he talks about something called the black swan, which is basically that one piece of information that will get you a deal. That one thing that is really, really difficult for a company. And when you find that out, you can show how your solution solves that problem. And so anyone who can't move people along their pipeline, in reality, they're probably missing what is their actual USP. A lot of founders think they know what the USP is for their customers, but in reality, they're actually not seeing what other people see the value for them. And so I would say they've got to go back and ask them questions and say, you know, we had a meeting. I would go and call every single person in my pipeline and go, what's holding you back? What right now makes you think that we're not right to work together? And just ask, because they'll tell you, or they won't. And if they won't, you can just go, okay, well, it's not going to happen. And then at least that's the end of the pipeline. Sales is about yes or no, ultimately. And so that will give them the no that they need, or like I said, it gives them the objection that they can overcome.
Love it. Love it. Thanks, Tash. Excellent. Brilliant advice. Sid.
Can I just add to that as well, Ollie? I've done quite a lot of work on best time to call, best time to pitch, and persistency, as Tash said, is absolutely key in this stuff. And if you take your own examples where I've gone online, I've looked at a product or service, and then the supplier has contacted me numerous times and I've not responded, not because I'm not interested, but they're contacting me at the wrong time. And as long as you put a message in there to say, look, if you're no longer interested, just opt out. So you're giving them the option to take themselves out of your constant nudging and nudging and nudging. It could be as simple as you're just calling them or contacting them at an inappropriate time. And to bring that to life, we did a product where we were selling to young mothers. And we realized calling them between, I think it was 11 and 1 when, you know, the kids were awake, calling them at bath times, we were getting no's. Calling them at a time when the kids were asleep, we were getting more conversations, more yeses. did a campaign with farmers, calling them 9 o'clock. They're out in the field. So we started at 7 in the morning, got loads of yeses. So it's just shifting that time around, understand your target market. When are they in the best position to talk to you, and try and hone your messaging on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The amount of times I've thought someone's ghosting me and they've just gone on a very, very long holiday. I promise, no matter what, any call that you make, I'll leave on sort of this. There's no greater embarrassment. I once called someone and a very much annoying follow-up call. And they went to me, Tash, I can't talk right now. I'm at a funeral. And I went, no worries. Shall I call you back tomorrow? And he said yes. And guess what? I called him back the next day and we got a deal. So, you know, don't worry. It doesn't matter. If people are going to pick up, they're going to pick up the phone. So you might as well just go for it.
If you don't shoot, you don't score.
Exactly.
There's a lot in that. And if you don't buy the lottery ticket, you don't win the lottery. And, you know, all of this thing. And I see it time and time again. Too many founders procrastinating, thinking too deeply, you know, instead of just getting in the water and doing it. It's very frustrating.
Perfectionism is the blocker to progress, I always say. It's never going to be perfect.
Doing is better than perfection. Doing is better than perfection, I always think. So, Neil.
Yeah, no, just thanks, Tash. Really great. Just a bit of humour on following up on the right time. I've got to follow up with a client, and he's a Man U fan, so he's obviously in a good mood this morning. So I'm going to hit him with that one to see if I can get some money out of him.
It's as a Tottenham supporter, is that why I never buy from anyone?
Oh dear, I don't know, but I've been dodging Ollie since the 1-1 a while back. But with Brighton. But anyway, yeah, no, football's always a good reason. Get people in a good mood.
Thank you very much, Tash. You're going to get a lot of love today, a lot of big ups, and everything else we can do on LinkedIn and various other platforms to really highlight how much value you brought to Stand Up this morning and our wonderful community.
You made my day. I'm not going to be able to walk through the doors today. My ego is going to be so large.
Excellent. Excellent.
What's new for a salesperson, huh?
That's right. Ego is very important.
Well, thank you so much all for coming here. The fact that I wasn't doing this just to myself was a real gift. And yeah, honestly, I put my LinkedIn, and like I say, if anyone has some pressing sales things they maybe didn't feel comfortable sharing here, let me know. I'm always happy to help. I love this stuff. So pop something in my diary.